Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yes.
We're going to be tackling the world of custom notebooks, planners, and journals.
Sounds pretty exciting already.
But specifically, we're going to help you figure out the best place to source them.
Okay.
China or Cambodia.
Interesting.
Our main source material is an article by Leo Xia.
Okay.
He's the CEO of Lion Paper Products.
All right.
And it's called How a Custom Notebook Manufacturer in Cambodia can simplify your notebook imports to the USA.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But notebooks, they might not sound like the most thrilling topic.
Right.
But this is a fantastic example of how global economics and these shifting manufacturing trends
Yeah.
impact, something you might use every single day.
Exactly. Now, you might be thinking, why not just go with the cheapest option?
Right.
But hold on, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to create a quality product that reflects your brand.
Exactly. You have to think about the potential pitfalls of sourcing solely based on price. Remember, almost 70% of retailers report unexpected production costs and quality issues as their biggest sourcing challenges.
Wow.
So you could end up with a shipment of notebooks with, let's say, paper so thin, you can practically see through it.
Oh, yeah.
Or binding that falls apart after a few uses.
Definitely not a good look.
But-
Especially if you're trying to build a brand known for quality and durability.
Right. And this isn't just about notebooks, is it?
Right.
These sourcing dilemmas apply to, practically any product.
Yeah.
So understanding these intricacies of global supply chains, it's just crucial for making these informed decisions.
Okay. So let's break down the costs involved in notebook production.
Yeah, let's do it.
To kind of get a clearer picture.
Yeah.
The article highlights, key components
Yeah.
like materials, labor, manufacturing overhead, shipping, tariffs,
Of course.
quality control, and packaging.
Right. And each of these components can vary so much depending on where you source from.
Yeah.
For example, labor costs in China,
Uh-huh.
they've been rising steadily.
Okay.
Some reports even say a 15–20% jump in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Cambodia offers, a more competitive labor market
Yeah, right.
with wages averaging around $1.50 an hour
Okay.
compared to $6.50 in China.
Wow, that's a pretty substantial difference.
Yes.
But does that mean Cambodia is automatically the better choice?
Well, not necessarily.
What are the trade-offs?
So while lower labor costs are certainly attractive,
Right.
you have to weigh that against other factors like infrastructure, manufacturing expertise,
Yeah.
and quality control.
Sure.
China has been a manufacturing powerhouse for decades.
Right.
They boast really well-established infrastructure,
Yeah.
advanced technology, and they have this reputation for consistent quality.
So China's kind of got a proven track record, but at a potentially higher price point.
Yeah.
It's almost like the, reliable veteran of the manufacturing world.
Right.
Dependable, but maybe a little more expensive these days.
That's a good analogy. And those higher costs, they are further, amplified
Yeah.
by factors like rising production expenses and the impact of these recent trade tensions,
Right.
including like increased tariffs on certain Chinese imports.
Right, those tariffs can really add up. But what about Cambodia?
Okay, Cambodia.
How does it stack up against China's manufacturing prowess?
So Cambodia is definitely making waves
Okay.
as a rising star in the manufacturing scene.
All right.
They offer cost efficiency,
Okay.
favorable trade agreements with the U.S.,
Uh-huh.
often including duty-free imports
Wow.
under the Generalized System of Preferences, or GSP,
Okay.
and they have this rapidly growing workforce with manufacturing expertise.
So Cambodia is like the, up-and-coming challenger,
Yeah.
offering a compelling alternative
Right.
with its competitive pricing and favorable trade conditions.
Absolutely.
But what about the quality and reliability?
Yeah.
Can they deliver on those fronts?
So Cambodia's infrastructure is still developing,
Right.
but it's catching up quickly.
Okay.
They may not yet have the capacity to handle those mega huge orders that China can,
Right.
but they're making significant strides.
Okay.
Plus, their commitment to quality is evident in the increasing number of manufacturers achieving international quality certifications.
That's encouraging. Leo Xia, the author of our main article,
Right.
even shares a story about his first experience
Yeah.
working with a Cambodian facility.
Mm-hmm.
He was initially hesitant, but ended up pleasantly surprised by the results.
Really?
Yeah, he managed to cut costs by about 20% compared to his previous orders from China.
Wow, that's significant.
And it wasn't just about the cost savings.
Right.
He was also impressed by the quality of the notebooks
Okay.
and the facility's commitment to using eco-friendly materials. Oh, interesting.
Which resonated really strongly with his customers.
That's a good point.
It seems like Cambodia might have an edge in the sustainability department, which is becoming increasingly important
Yeah,
to consumers these days.
absolutely. Consumers are becoming more aware of the environmental and social impact of their purchasing decisions.
Right.
They want to support brands that align with their values.
So if a brand is looking to appeal to eco-conscious consumers,
Yeah,
partnering with a Cambodian manufacturer using sustainable practices could be a really strategic move.
exactly. It's not just about finding the cheapest option anymore.
Right.
It's about finding the right fit
Yeah.
for your brand, your values, and your target market.
Okay, so we've got this, like, intriguing dynamic between China,
Right.
the seasoned veteran, with its established infrastructure and quality control, but potentially higher costs.
Yeah.
And Cambodia, the rising star,
Right.
offering that cost efficiency, favorable trade conditions,
Right. Yeah.
and a growing commitment to sustainability. But how do you decide which country is the best fit for your specific needs?
Well, before we jump into the decision-making process,
Okay.
let's delve a little deeper into what those specific needs might be.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about cost, sustainability, but what about quality?
Yeah.
What are the key indicators of a well-made notebook?
Right. We can't forget about the actual product itself.
Right, exactly.
When I think about, like, quality notebooks, I
Yeah.
think about, like, the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Is it smooth?
Right.
Does it bleed through easily?
Yeah.
Then there's the binding. Is it sturdy enough to hold up
Right?
to wear and tear?
Yeah,
And, of course, like, the overall design and aesthetics are important, too.
exactly. And those quality considerations can vary
Right.
depending on the type of notebook you're creating, like a simple lined notebook.
Might have different quality requirements than a, like, high-end leather-bound journal.
That makes sense. So before even deciding between China and Cambodia,
Yeah.
you need to have a clear understanding of your target market,
Yeah.
the specific type of notebook you want to create,
Uh-huh.
and the level of quality you're aiming for.
Precisely. Once you have a firm grasp of, your product requirements
Right.
and quality standards,
Yeah.
then you can start to evaluate how well each country aligns
Okay.
with those needs.
So we've kind of laid the groundwork.
We have.
Now let's dive into the decision-making process.
Okay, let's do it.
Where do we even begin?
So Leo Shia suggests a framework that starts with analyzing your volume and quality needs.
Okay.
If you're looking for those massive, consistent orders,
Yeah.
and prioritize that proven track record of quality,
Uh-huh.
China might still be the safer bet,
Right.
despite the higher costs.
But if you're working with like tighter margins and need to keep costs down, Cambodia could be the ideal choice,
Right.
especially if you're drawn to their commitment to sustainability
Yeah.
and want to incorporate those eco-friendly materials into your notebooks.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing your needs
Right.
and finding the best match.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
It really depends on your specific circumstances
Yeah.
and priorities.
Exactly.
But let's say you've, weighed the pros and cons of each country and you're still on the fence.
Okay.
What are some other factors to consider? I mean, beyond the basics of cost and quality.
Right.
What else should we be thinking about?
Well, one crucial factor is supplier flexibility and communication. Can they handle those, unique design requests
Yeah.
that will actually set your brand apart?
Right.
Do they have experience working with different materials, printing techniques, and finishing options?
It's almost like you're looking for a partner, not just a supplier, right?
Absolutely.
Someone who understands your vision
Yes.
and can work with you to bring it to life.
And that's where communication becomes, so important.
Yeah.
Are they responsive to your inquiries? Do they provide clear production timelines
Right.
and keep you informed throughout the process?
Those are all great points. I remember reading about a situation where a company went with the cheapest supplier,
Oh, no.
but they ended up having like communication breakdowns, production delays,
Oh.
and ultimately a product that just like didn't meet their expectations.
Oof.
Yeah, it turned out to be a really costly mistake in the long run.
That's a perfect example of why focusing solely on price can just backfire.
Right.
Sometimes it's worth investing a little more
Yeah.
to ensure a smoother process and a higher quality product.
Okay, so we've established that finding a supplier who understands your needs
Yes.
and communicates effectively
Right.
is just crucial.
Yes.
But how do you actually go about finding those reliable partners? In either China or Cambodia,
Right.
I mean, it's not like there's a simple directory
Right.
of trustworthy manufacturers.
That's where research and due diligence come in.
Yeah.
Leo Shia stresses the importance of thoroughly vetting potential suppliers.
Okay.
Don't just rely on, like, online listings or brochures.
Right.
Dig deeper. Look for supplier certifications, industry awards,
Uh-huh.
customer testimonials.
It's like checking references before you hire someone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to make sure they have a proven track record and a positive reputation in the industry.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out to other businesses in your industry
Yeah.
and just ask for recommendations.
Yeah.
Word of mouth can be incredibly valuable.
That makes sense. Getting firsthand insights from people
Yeah.
who have actually worked with these suppliers can give you a much better understanding
Right.
of what to expect.
For sure.
But even with thorough research, there's still a level of trust involved, right?
How do you know if you can truly rely on a supplier,
Yeah.
especially when they're located halfway across the world?
That's a valid concern. Building trust, it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
Leo Shia emphasizes the importance of establishing clear communication from the start,
Right.
setting realistic expectations, and working collaboratively throughout the process.
So it's about fostering a genuine partnership,
Yeah.
not just a transactional relationship.
Exactly.
But let's say you've done your research.
Okay.
You found a few potential suppliers
Uh-huh.
in either China or Cambodia who seem promising.
Yeah.
You've initiated contact,
Right.
and the communication's been good so far.
Okay.
What's the next step in this vetting process?
Right.
How do you really get a feel for their capabilities
Yeah.
and make sure they're the right fit?
So Leo Shia recommends requesting samples and prototypes.
Okay.
This is a crucial step.
Right.
It allows you to actually see and feel the quality of their work firsthand
Yeah.
before committing to a large order.
Right.
And don't just focus on the product itself.
Okay.
Pay attention to the packaging,
Uh-huh.
the communication throughout the sampling process,
Right.
and their responsiveness to your feedback.
That's a great point. It's all about getting a holistic view
Right.
of their capabilities
Yeah.
and how they operate.
Exactly.
But let's say you've received the samples.
Okay.
You're impressed with the quality
All right.
and you're feeling good about a particular supplier.
Yeah.
Now it's time to talk about the nitty-gritty details, right?
Yes.
The pricing, the payment terms,
Right.
the minimum order quantities, all that fun stuff.
Exactly. And that's where negotiation comes into play.
Right.
But before we, dive into negotiation strategies,
Okay.
let's take a quick break to recap what we've covered so far.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to this crucial aspect of the sourcing process.
Sounds like a plan. We'll be back in a moment
Yes.
to continue our deep dive into the world of custom notebook sourcing.
All right.
Be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to our deep dive into sourcing custom notebooks. Before the break, we were talking about vetting suppliers and requesting samples. It sounds like that process can get pretty intense.
It can be, but that level of scrutiny is what separates a successful sourcing strategy from one riddled with costly mistakes and delays. Once you have, a good sense of a potential supplier's capabilities,
Right.
then you can move on to the finer points like pricing and negotiation.
All right, so let's talk about negotiation. It can feel a little intimidating,
Yeah.
especially when dealing with, international suppliers.
Right.
Any tips on navigating that aspect?
Absolutely. First, remember that negotiation isn't about trying to strong arm the supplier into giving you the lowest possible price.
Right.
It's about finding a mutually beneficial agreement. That ensures, fairness and transparency for both parties.
Okay.
Start by having open and honest conversations about pricing structures, minimum order quantities, payment terms, and potential fluctuations in costs.
That makes sense. It's about building trust and understanding, not just haggling over pennies. But let's be realistic. Cost is a major factor for any business. How much wiggle room is there usually when negotiating with notebook suppliers?
It really depends on several factors,
Okay.
including the volume of your order,
Uh-huh.
the complexity of the designs,
Right.
and the overall relationship you've established with the supplier.
Sure.
But remember those cost components we discussed earlier:
Yeah.
materials, labor, manufacturing overhead, shipping, and tariffs.
Right.
Understanding how each of those elements contributes to the overall price
Yeah.
can give you leverage during negotiations.
So it's not just about saying, hey, can you knock 10% off the price?
Right.
It's about having like a deeper understanding of the cost breakdown and being able to pinpoint areas where there might be some flexibility.
Exactly. For instance, if you're ordering a large quantity, you might be able to negotiate a lower price per unit.
Right.
Or if you're willing to be flexible on the delivery timeline,
Yeah.
that could also open up opportunities for cost savings. Don't be afraid to, propose alternative solutions and see if you can find some common ground.
And what about those pesky tariffs we talked about earlier,
All right.
especially those impacting Chinese imports?
Yeah.
Are those negotiable, or is that just something you have to factor into the cost?
So tariffs are usually set by governments
Okay.
and aren't directly negotiable with the supplier.
Right.
However, a savvy supplier, they might be able to suggest ways to mitigate the impact,
Okay.
such as sourcing certain materials from different countries
How interesting.
or adjusting shipping routes. It's worth, discussing these options with potential suppliers to see if there are any creative solutions available.
It sounds like a successful sourcing strategy requires a blend of research, communication, and a bit of creative problem solving.
You got it.
Yeah.
Now, let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about something that often gets overlooked in the sourcing process:
Right.
building a strong relationship with your supplier.
Yeah.
This goes beyond, just negotiating contracts and placing orders.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What does building a strong relationship with a supplier actually entail?
Well, it's more about establishing clear communication channels,
Okay.
being responsive to each other's needs,
Uh-huh.
and fostering like a collaborative approach to problem solving.
So it's more about treating them like a valued partner rather than just a vendor, right?
Mhm.
And that can make a big difference in the long run, I imagine.
Absolutely. When you have a strong relationship with your supplier,
Yeah.
you're more likely to get, proactive communication about potential delays or issues,
Uh-huh.
faster turnaround times on samples and prototypes,
Yeah.
and a willingness to just go the extra mile to meet your needs.
Right.
It can make the entire sourcing process, much smoother and less stressful.
But how do you actually cultivate that kind of relationship?
Right.
Especially when dealing with suppliers in different countries and time zones? I
Yeah.
imagine language barriers and cultural differences could add another layer of complexity.
You're right. Those factors can definitely present challenges, but there are ways to, bridge those gaps.
Yeah.
First, invest time in getting to know your supplier on a personal level.
Yeah.
Ask about their experience, their team, their company culture.
Sure.
Share a little about, your own business and your vision for the product.
So it's about establishing a human connection,
Yes.
not just treating them like a faceless entity on the other side of the world. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And communication is key.
Right.
If there are language barriers, consider using translation services
Uh-huh.
or working with a supplier who has strong English-speaking capabilities.
Yeah.
And be mindful of cultural nuances. Do a little research on, business etiquette in their country to avoid any unintentional faux pas.
It sounds like building strong supplier relationships requires a combination of clear communication,
Yeah.
cultural sensitivity, and a genuine effort to understand each other's perspectives and priorities.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, let's say you've found the perfect supplier
Okay.
in either China or Cambodia.
Yeah.
You've negotiated favorable terms.
Right.
And you've established a strong working relationship.
Yeah.
What comes next in this sourcing journey?
Well, I imagine it's time to move on to the actual production process,
Mhm.
right? Turning those designs and ideas into tangible notebooks.
Okay.
But I'm guessing it's not as simple as just sending your designs and saying, okay, make it happen.
You're right. It's much more involved than that. The production process, it can be, complex
Yeah.
and requires careful planning, coordination, and constant communication
Right.
to ensure everything goes smoothly.
Okay, so walk us through the key steps
Okay.
involved in the production process.
Right.
What are the crucial things to keep in mind?
First and foremost, You need to establish clear production timelines and quality control standards
Okay.
right from the start. There should be no ambiguity about deadlines, quantities, and expected quality levels.
Right.
Everything should be documented and agreed upon in advance to avoid any surprises or misunderstandings down the line.
It sounds like meticulous planning and documentation are like crucial to prevent costly errors and delays.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, creating a timeline.
Mhm.
It's about actively managing that timeline
Right.
throughout the production process.
Okay.
Regular communication with your supplier is essential
Yeah.
to ensure everything's on track
Uh-huh.
and to address any potential issues promptly.
So you're not just handing off the designs and waiting for the like finished product to arrive at your doorstep. It's about staying like actively engaged throughout the entire journey.
Precisely.
Uh-huh.
And technology can play a, huge role in facilitating that communication and collaboration.
Right.
Project management tools, communication platforms,
Yeah.
even video conferencing
Uh-huh.
can help bridge those geographical distances
Right.
and keep everyone on the same page.
That's a great point. Technology can definitely help like streamline the process
Yeah.
and make it easier to like stay connected,
Right.
even when you're dealing with suppliers across different time zones. But let's talk more specifically about quality control. How do you ensure that the notebooks being produced
Yeah.
meet your exact specifications and quality standards,
Right.
especially when you're not, physically present at the factory?
That's where a, robust quality control system becomes paramount.
Okay.
This might involve implementing multiple checkpoints
Right.
throughout the production process,
Uh-huh.
from raw material inspection
Okay.
to like in-progress quality checks and final product testing.
So it's not just about, checking the finished product. It's about having a system in place to like monitor quality at every stage
Yeah.
of the production process. But how do you ensure that those checks are actually happening
Right.
and that the results are accurate? I mean, you're relying on the supplier to be, honest and transparent about their quality control practices.
That's a valid concern. While trust is important,
Uh-huh.
it's also wise to implement like additional measures
Okay.
to verify quality.
Okay.
This might involve hiring a third-party inspection company
Right.
to conduct like random checks at the factory,
Oh, okay.
or requesting detailed quality control reports
Uh-huh.
from your supplier
Right.
at each stage of the production process. Some companies even send representatives to visit the factory in person
Wow.
to observe the production process firsthand.
That makes sense. It's about having, multiple layers of accountability to ensure consistent quality. But even with most like meticulous quality control systems, things can still go wrong, right? What happens if there are like defects or issues with the finished product?
That's where having a clear protocol for handling defects and returns is crucial.
Okay.
This should be discussed and agreed upon with your supplier, up front.
Right.
Outlining the process for identifying defects,
Uh-huh.
resolving issues,
Yeah.
and handling any necessary returns or replacements.
So it's about having a plan in place
Yeah.
to address those like inevitable hiccups
Right.
along the way. But let's say everything goes smoothly.
Okay.
The production process runs like clockwork.
All right.
And the finished notebooks arrive
Yeah.
at your warehouse.
At your doorstep.
That's the end of the sourcing journey.
Not quite.
We can all breathe a sigh of relief and move on to the next project.
So while a successful delivery is like definitely cause for celebration,
Yeah.
the sourcing journey doesn't end there.
Okay.
The final and arguably, most important step
Uh-huh.
is gathering feedback and analyzing data to continuously improve your sourcing strategy.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. It's not just about, getting the notebooks produced and delivered. It's about using those experiences to like refine your approach and make better decisions in the future.
Exactly. Gather feedback from your customers, your team,
Uh-huh.
even your supplier.
Mm.
Analyze production timelines, quality control reports, shipping costs, and any other relevant data points.
Right.
Identify areas where things went well, pinpoint areas for improvement, and use those insights to inform your sourcing decisions going forward.
So it's a continuous cycle of like learning, adapting,
Yeah.
and optimizing your sourcing strategy
Right.
based on real-world experiences and data.
Precisely. The sourcing landscape is constantly evolving,
Right.
with new suppliers emerging,
Uh-huh.
costs fluctuating,
Yeah.
and consumer preferences shifting.
Right.
To stay ahead of the curve, you need to be, adaptable, data-driven, and constantly seeking ways to improve your sourcing process.
It sounds like successful sourcing is a blend of like art and science.
Yeah.
It requires strategic thinking, relationship building, a keen eye for detail,
Yeah.
and a willingness to like embrace both the challenges and the rewards that come with, bringing a product to life
Right.
from concept to completion.
Well said.
Yeah.
And that brings us to like a crucial point.
Yeah.
The importance of aligning your sourcing decisions
Right.
with your overall business goals and brand values.
Okay, this sounds interesting. We talked earlier about how sourcing choices can, reflect a brand's commitment to sustainability.
Wow.
Are there other ways that sourcing decisions can like impact a brand's image and reputation?
Absolutely. Your sourcing choices, they can speak volumes about your brand's values and priorities.
Right.
For instance, if you prioritize, ethical labor practices, you might choose to work with suppliers who have like fair labor certifications.
Right.
Or who are known for, treating their employees well.
Sure.
If you're a luxury brand, you might seek out suppliers who specialize in like high-end materials and craftsmanship.
So it's not just about like finding the cheapest or the fastest option. It's about making choices that, align with your brand's DNA
Yeah,
and resonate with your target audience.
exactly. Consumers are becoming more discerning
Right.
and want to support brands that, share their values
Uh-huh.
by being transparent about your sourcing practices.
Right.
And making conscious choices that reflect your brand's commitment to like quality, sustainability, or ethical practices.
Yeah.
You can strengthen your brand image and build deeper connections with your customers.
That's a powerful insight. It suggests that sourcing decisions can be a form of like brand storytelling,
Yeah.
conveying a message about, what your company stands for and how you operate in the world.
Well put. And that story can be just as important as the product itself.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the initial stages of like researching suppliers and negotiating contracts
Right.
to the intricacies of the production process and the importance of data-driven decision-making. But before we wrap up this episode,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on something we touched upon earlier. The idea that the lessons we've learned about, sourcing notebooks can be applied to other products as well.
That's an excellent point. While we've been using, notebooks as a case study,
Right.
the principles we've discussed are relevant to sourcing, almost any product.
Yeah.
From apparel, electronics, to home goods and furniture.
So whether you're sourcing T-shirts, coffee mugs, or furniture,
Yeah.
the same fundamentals apply. Define your priorities, do your research, build strong relationships, communicate effectively, manage the production process meticulously, and use data to drive continuous improvement.
You got it. And remember, sourcing is not just about finding the cheapest option. It's about making strategic choices that align with your brand, resonate with your customers, and contribute to a more, sustainable and ethical world.
I love that. It's about finding that sweet spot where business success and positive impact intersect. But before we get too, philosophical,
Right.
let's bring it back to the practical side of things.
Yeah.
We've talked about the importance of data-driven decision-making throughout this episode.
Yes.
Can you give us some specific examples of how data can be used to inform and improve sourcing strategies?
Absolutely. Let's say you're tracking customer reviews for your notebooks.
Okay.
You notice that customers consistently praise the quality of the paper,
Yeah.
but complain about the durability of the binding. That data point suggests that you might need to, reevaluate your binding specifications or explore different binding methods with your supplier.
That's a great example. It shows how even seemingly small data points can reveal valuable insights that can lead to significant improvements in your product and your sourcing process.
Exactly. And it's not just about customer feedback.
Right.
You can also analyze data related to production timelines, defect rates, shipping costs,
Yeah.
and even supplier responsiveness.
Right.
To identify areas for optimization and cost savings.
So it's about using data to paint a holistic picture
Yeah.
of your sourcing operations
Right.
and pinpoint areas where you can make, smarter, more informed decisions. But let's be realistic, not every business has a dedicated data analytics team or sophisticated software
Right.
to track all this information. What advice would you give to, smaller businesses or entrepreneurs who are just starting out with sourcing and might not have access to all those fancy tools and resources?
Yeah, it's a great question. Even without sophisticated data analytics tools,
Yeah.
you can still gather valuable insights from, basic tracking and analysis. For instance, you can create simple spreadsheets to track, like supplier communication, production timelines, and shipping costs. You can also manually collect customer feedback
Okay.
through surveys, social media, or even direct conversations.
So it's about finding ways to gather data that are relevant to your business,
Yeah.
even if you're doing it manually. The key is to be consistent and to use that data to inform your decisions rather than just relying on gut feelings or assumptions.
You got it. And as your business grows, you can gradually invest in, more sophisticated data analytics tools and processes.
Right.
But even at the early stages, data can be a powerful ally in your sourcing journey.
I love that. It's a reminder that data-driven decision-making isn't just for big corporations. It's a, valuable tool for businesses of all sizes.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
We have.
from the intricacies of, choosing between China and Cambodia as sourcing destinations.
Right. To the importance of building strong supplier relationships
Yeah.
and using data to inform your decisions. As we wrap up this episode,
Yes.
is there any final advice or parting wisdom
Sure.
you'd like to share with our listeners?
I'd say the most important takeaway is to approach sourcing with a mindset of, continuous learning and improvement. The sourcing landscape is, dynamic and ever-changing.
Yeah.
So be adaptable, stay informed, and never stop seeking ways to, optimize your processes and make smarter decisions. And remember, sourcing is not just about finding the cheapest option. It's about making choices that align with your brand, your values, and your vision for a better world.
That's a great way to end this episode. It's a reminder that sourcing can be a powerful force for positive change, not just a means to an end.
Yes.
So let's go out there and source with intention, making choices that benefit our businesses, our customers,
Yeah.
and the world around us. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of custom notebook sourcing.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back next time for another fascinating exploration of the business world.
Until then, happy sourcing.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into sourcing custom notebooks. I have to say, this has been a really eye-opening journey. I feel like we've gone from Notebook 101 to a masterclass in global sourcing strategy.
It's amazing how something, as seemingly simple as a notebook can unravel such complex layers of economics and ethics and logistics, isn't it?
It really is. So as we wrap up this episode, let's distill all this fantastic information into some key takeaways for our listeners. Where should they even begin if they're considering sourcing custom notebooks or really any product?
The first step, always, is to define your priorities.
Okay.
What truly matters most to your brand and the customers you're trying to reach.
Yeah.
Is it cost, above all else, unwavering quality,
Right.
sustainability,
Yeah.
speed to market,
Right.
or, most likely, a carefully balanced combination?
That makes perfect sense. It's like setting the compass before you, embark on a journey. You need to know where you're headed before you start figuring out the best route.
Exactly. Once you've got that compass calibrated, then it's time for some, serious research.
Right.
Don't just go with the first, flashy website
Yeah.
or the cheapest coat you find. Thoroughly vet those potential suppliers.
Like we talked about earlier, check for certifications.
Yes.
Read testimonials, maybe even reach out to other businesses in your field to see who they've had good experiences with.
Precisely. Reputation matters, especially when you're dealing with, overseas manufacturers. Now, once you've got a short list of potential partners, that's when the relationship building begins.
And this is where it gets interesting, right? It's not just about placing orders and crunching numbers.
Right.
It's about forging genuine connections and open communication.
Couldn't agree more. This is where you invest the time in getting to know your supplier, understanding their capabilities, and making sure there's a good cultural fit. Remember, a successful sourcing strategy It's built on trust and mutual respect,
Right.
not just a contract.
It's like we were saying earlier, it's about finding a partner, not just a vendor.
Exactly.
Someone who's invested in your success as much as their own. But let's be real for a moment. There are bound to be, hiccups along the way, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Delays,
Yeah.
miscommunications,
Uh-huh.
maybe even the occasional, quality control issue. How do you navigate those challenges and keep the partnership strong?
That's where, you know, clear communication and a proactive approach come in.
Hmm.
Don't wait until problems escalate. Address
Yeah.
issues, head on.
Yeah.
Be transparent about your concerns and work collaboratively to find solutions. And this is where having a strong foundation of trust really pays off.
It's that whole, we're in this together mentality,
Exactly.
facing challenges as a team rather than, pointing fingers.
Right.
I like that. Now, we've talked a lot about the, practical side of sourcing,
Yeah.
the research,
Yeah.
the negotiation,
Right.
the production process. But there's also a bigger picture to consider, isn't there?
There absolutely is. And that's where the idea of transparency comes in.
Okay.
Consumers today are, more informed than ever.
Right.
They want to know where their products come from,
Yeah.
how they're made, and what values the companies they support stand for.
So it's not enough to just create a, great product. You have to be able to tell the story behind that product,
Yeah.
right? Highlighting your ethical sourcing practices or your commitment to sustainability or any other values that resonate with your target audience.
You nailed it. Transparency builds trust and loyalty.
Right.
It shows your customers that you're not just about profits. You're about doing business in a way that aligns with their values.
And speaking of making, informed choices, we can't forget the power of data. We talked about using data to refine your sourcing strategy, track costs, and identify areas for improvement. But sometimes all that data can feel, overwhelming, especially for smaller businesses
Right.
that might not have dedicated data analysts on staff. Any advice on making data analysis less daunting?
Start simple.
Okay.
You don't need, fancy software or a degree in statistics to glean valuable insights from your data.
Right.
Track your costs, gather customer feedback, monitor production timelines, and look for patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Even something as simple as a spreadsheet can reveal, powerful trends if you're paying attention.
It's about asking the right questions, isn't it?
Exactly.
Why are shipping costs from Cambodia consistently higher than we anticipated? Or are customers more satisfied with notebooks made with recycled paper versus traditional paper?
Exactly. Data can tell a story, and that story can guide your sourcing decisions in a way that, benefits your business and resonates with your customers. Now, here's a crucial point to remember. The sourcing landscape is constantly changing. New suppliers emerge, costs fluctuate, consumer preferences shift. So be adaptable.
It's like that saying, the only constant is change, right? You have to be willing to adjust your strategy as needed.
Right.
Explore new options.
Yeah.
And never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Stay informed about industry trends, connect with other businesses in your field, attend trade shows, read articles like the one by Leo Shia that, sparked this whole conversation.
And speaking of Leo Shia, his journey from hesitant to enthusiastic about Cambodian manufacturing highlights something crucial, the importance of, challenging assumptions and being open to new possibilities.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best solutions are found outside our comfort zones.
Right.
So don't be afraid to think outside the box, explore unconventional options, and embrace the adventure of sourcing.
Love that. It's not just about ticking boxes and filling orders. It's about approaching sourcing with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to learn and grow along the way. And as we wrap up this incredible deep dive, is there any final parting wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners?
Remember that sourcing is not just a logistical puzzle.
Right.
It's an opportunity to reflect your brand's values, build meaningful partnerships, and contribute to a, more ethical and sustainable world.
Beautifully said. So let's go out there and source with intention, making choices that benefit our businesses, our customers, and the planet. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of custom notebook sourcing.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.